They told you opening your third eye would bring enlightenment. They said it would grant you wisdom, spiritual clarity, even psychic powers. What they didn't tell you is the dark side. The part nobody warns you about, the whispers in the night, the visions you can't unsee, the overwhelming flood of truths your mind wasn't ready to handle. This isn't just some mystical upgrade, it's a Pandora's box. And once it's open, there's no closing it. Welcome to ** Forbidden Text *, where we uncover hidden knowledge and forbidden wisdom. What if everything you thought you wanted, a direct line to the universe, a glimpse into hidden dimensions, came with a cost so steep it could leave you questioning your own sanity? The truth is, the third eye isn't just a window to higher consciousness. It's also a doorway to the unknown. And not everything on the other side is friendly. But stick with me, because by the end, you'll understand the real truth about what you're unlocking. Not the Instagram version, not the guru for profit version, but the raw, unfiltered reality. The kind of knowledge that could change everything. So why did people chase it in the first place? It's because the idea is intoxicating. Who wouldn't want to see beyond the veil of this mundane world, to understand the universe on a deeper level? But ask yourself, do you truly know what lies beyond that veil? Because the answer isn't just light and love. Stay tuned. From ancient texts to modern spiritual teachings, the third eye has been painted as the ultimate key to unlocking higher perception. The pineal gland, that small, mysterious part of your brain, is revered as the gateway to transcendence. Cultures across the world have depicted it in their art and mythology. The Eye of Horus in Egypt, the Bindis of India, even the illuminated pyramid on your dollar bill. But here's the twist. Not all those cultures believed it was something to rush into. For centuries, mystics warned that awakening the third eye too early, or without guidance, could lead to madness. Yet in today's spiritual marketplace, it's sold as an instant enlightenment hack. You've probably seen the courses, the meditations, the supplements that claim they'll decalcify your pineal gland and make you see the world in a whole new way. What they don't mention is what you'll actually see. Imagine this: you're sitting in meditation, eyes closed, mind calm, and then it happens. A flood of imagery, shapes and colors that don't belong to this world. At first, it's beautiful, euphoric even, but then something shifts. The visions become intrusive. Shadows move where there shouldn't be shadows. And when you open your eyes, the feeling doesn't stop. You're hyper-aware now of everything. The subtle movements in the air, the tiniest shifts in energy, even the unspoken thoughts of the people around you. It's like someone turned up the volume on reality. Sounds amazing, right? Until you realize you can't turn it back down. This is where it gets dangerous. The third eye doesn't come with an instruction manual, and once it's open, you're exposed to a flood of information your mind might not be ready to process. Ancient yogis called this psychic overload. In modern terms, it feels like sensory anxiety on steroids. You might even start to question what's real and what's imagined, and for some, the line between the two blurs completely. But the real danger, it's not just the visions, it's what's looking back at you. There are countless stories no one wants to talk about, of people who open their third eye only to find themselves face to face with entities they can't explain. Not spirits of loved ones, not benevolent guides, but something else entirely. Beings that seem curious at first, until they're not. And once you've opened that channel, you're not the only one using it. But there's another layer to this, something darker, something more human. Behind the romanticized allure of the third eye lies an industry profiting off your curiosity. Spiritual influencers, self-proclaimed gurus, and online experts who promise enlightenment for a price. But ask yourself, are they really helping you awaken? Or are they just selling you the illusion of control? Because if they were honest, they'd tell you what's on the other side of that awakening isn't something you can always control. And yet, the third eye remains irresistible. The promise of understanding more than the rest of the world, of transcending ordinary life. It's the ultimate temptation. But before you dive headfirst into that world, ask yourself one question. Are you ready to lose the ground beneath your feet? Because that's exactly what happens to many who go too far. Relationships fall apart as you find it harder to connect with people who can't see what you see. Insomnia creeps in as your mind becomes a constant reel of visions and messages. And worst of all, the obsession. The endless chase for more answers, more insights, more power, until the life you once had feels like a distant memory. But here's the thing, there's a way to navigate this. A way to protect yourself and stay grounded. By the end of this, you'll understand how to shield yourself from the dangers, how to control the floodgates, and how to balance spiritual exploration with the reality of living in this world. Because the ultimate truth isn't in leaving this reality behind, it's in learning how to master both. Keep watching. You're closer to the truth than you've ever been. The moment you realize the third eye is more than a mystical metaphor is the moment everything changes. It's not just a poetic way to describe intuition or clarity, it's an experience. And that experience can be as terrifying as it is enlightening. For some, the first sign is a pressure in the middle of their forehead, like something is pushing from the inside out. Others describe vivid dreams that feel more real than waking life, as if they've stumbled into a hidden dimension. Then there are the voices, quiet at first, like faint whispers. But they grow louder, more insistent. And they don't always have your best interests in mind. You see, the third eye doesn't just give you access to a higher plane of existence. It also opens you up to the things lurking in those planes. Ancient traditions talk about beings that exist beyond our perception. Energies, entities, shadows that feed on human awareness. Call them what you want, demons, spirits, interdimensional parasites. The names don't matter. What matters is that opening your third eye is like lighting a beacon in the dark. And sometimes, what answers isn't what you were looking for. These aren't just old myths or ghost stories. People who've experienced spontaneous third eye openings often report feeling like they're being watched. Like something is in the room with them, even when they're alone. And for some, it's more than just a feeling. They see shapes, outlines, eyes peering at them from the periphery of their vision. At first, it's easy to dismiss. Maybe it's just a trick of the light, an overactive imagination. But how many coincidences does it take before you realize you're not imagining it? Here's where it gets worse. Once the third eye is open, it doesn't close. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unhear the voices or shake the feeling that you're being followed by something you can't explain. And while some people learn to live with it, others find themselves spiraling, consumed by paranoia, insomnia, and a sense of isolation that no one around them can understand. But that's not the part they sell you. The workshops, the guided meditations, the influencers showing off their spiritual glow-up, none of them talk about the sleepless nights, the intrusive visions, or the overwhelming sense of being unmoored from reality. They'll sell you enlightenment like it's a product, a checklist, a quick fix for all your problems. But they won't tell you what it costs. And let's talk about those so-called teachers. Many of them know exactly what they're doing. They prey on your curiosity, your desire to feel special, to understand something the rest of the world doesn't. But for every legitimate spiritual guide, there are dozens of frauds, people who have no idea what they're unlocking in you, or worse, people who know exactly what they're doing and don't care. Their goal isn't your enlightenment, it's your dependence. Because the more lost you feel, the more you'll keep coming back to them for answers. This is where the line between mysticism and manipulation gets dangerously blurred. When you open your third eye, you become vulnerable, not just to unseen entities, but to human predators. They'll tell you that your struggles are part of the process, that you need to trust the journey, that the discomfort means you're doing it right. But sometimes, the discomfort isn't spiritual growth. Sometimes, it's a sign you're being used. But what if you've already started? What if you felt the pull, the pressure, the visions creeping into your mind? Is it too late to stop? Not necessarily. There are ways to ground yourself, to regain control, to shield yourself from the things you weren't prepared to face. But it requires balance. discipline, and the courage to set boundaries, not just with the spiritual world, but with yourself. Because the truth is, the third eye isn't inherently good or evil. It's a tool, a lens. And like any tool, it can be used to build or to destroy. The question is, are you ready to take responsibility for what you see, for what you learn, for the way it changes you? By the end of this, you'll understand how to walk the fine line between awakening and obsession, between enlightenment and madness. You'll see why the true power of the third eye isn't in leaving this world behind, but in learning how to navigate it with clarity, balance, and strength. But for now, take a breath, because the journey isn't over yet. What lies ahead might just redefine everything you thought you knew. Keep watching. For those who've already opened the third eye, or those who are still teetering on the edge, it's time to confront the most uncomfortable truth. Awakening isn't a one-way ticket to bliss. It's raw. It's messy. And sometimes, it's downright terrifying. The idea of seeing beyond sounds like freedom, doesn't it? A way to escape the mundane, to rise above the noise of everyday life. But what happens when you start seeing too much? When every passing stranger's emotions hit you like a tidal wave, when the energy in a room shifts, and you're the only one who notices, you'll start to realize that enlightenment isn't about clarity, it's about contrast. Light and shadow, order and chaos. Because the more you see, the harder it becomes to ignore the darkness. And here's the thing no one tells you. The darkness isn't just out there. It's in you too. When the third eye opens, it acts like a magnifying glass, amplifying everything within. The unresolved traumas, the fears you've buried, the parts of yourself you've been too scared to face, they'll rise to the surface, demanding your attention. And if you're not ready to confront them, they'll consume you. This is why so many people spiral after their so-called awakening. It's not just the external forces, the entities, the visions, the energy shifts. It's the internal reckoning. The realization that your perception of the world is only as clear as your perception of yourself. And let's be honest, how many of us are truly prepared to face our own reflection? But let's get even darker for a moment. Because what if the visions aren't just in your mind? What if some of them are real? There are countless reports from people who've opened their third eye and encountered things they can't explain. Things that defy the rules of this reality. Shadow figures standing at the edge of their bed. Voices calling their name in the dead of night. A persistent feeling of being watched, even in their most private moments. Skeptics will say it's all in your head, that your brain is simply misfiring under the influence of heightened perception. But what if the skeptics are wrong? What if opening your third eye connects you to something ancient, something primal, that has always existed just beyond the veil of human understanding? Think about it. Every culture in history has stories of beings that exist in unseen realms. Call them spirits, demons, jinn, or interdimensional entities. The labels don't matter. What matters is that they're a universal constant. And when you open your third eye, you're not just peeking into their world. You're inviting them into yours. But don't panic, not yet. Because even in the darkest moments, there's a way to reclaim your power. The key isn't to run from what you've awakened. It's to stand your ground. To learn the difference between what's real and what's fear-driven projection. To master the art of discernment, so you're not at the mercy of every vision, every whisper, every shadow that crosses your path. This isn't just about protecting yourself from external forces. It's about reclaiming control of your own mind. Because let's face it, the scariest thing about the third eye isn't what you see. It's what it reveals about you. And that's where the real awakening begins. Not in escaping reality, but in learning how to confront it head-on. To navigate the darkness without losing yourself. To use your expanded awareness as a tool, not a trap. By the end of this journey, you'll understand how to wield the power of the third eye without letting it wield you. You'll know how to protect yourself from the forces you weren't prepared for, and how to protect yourself from your own inner demons. But most importantly, you'll discover what true enlightenment really looks like. And here's a hint, it's not what you've been sold. It's not about floating above the chaos of life. It's about stepping into it with clarity, strength, and courage. Keep watching, because the truth is just beginning to reveal itself. The truth about the third eye isn't in the mystical stories or the romanticized promises. It's in the raw, unfiltered experience. It's in what happens when you strip away the pretty packaging and face the reality of what you've unlocked. The highs, the lows, and the parts that leave scars. Let's talk about the isolation. Nobody prepares you for how lonely this path can feel. When your perception shifts, the world starts to look different. The people you used to connect with, their conversations start to feel hollow. The routines that used to ground you, they feel meaningless. It's not that you're better than them. It's that your sense of reality has changed. And explaining it to someone who hasn't been there is like trying to describe color to someone who's never seen it. You end up alone, trapped in your own mind, searching for someone, anyone, who understands. And then there's the obsession. The third eye doesn't just give you a glimpse of the unknown. It leaves you craving more. More visions, more answers, more connection to whatever lies beyond this plane of existence. It's a hunger that grows the more you feed it. And if you're not careful, it will consume you. You'll find yourself chasing every new technique, every esoteric teaching, every fragment of wisdom in the hope that it will bring you closer to the truth. But here's the harsh reality. The truth isn't something you can chase. It's something you learn to live with. This is why so many people burn out on the spiritual path. They dive in headfirst, hungry for enlightenment, only to find themselves lost in a maze of conflicting teachings, half-truths, and outright lies. And the deeper they go, the harder it becomes to find their way back. That's not enlightenment. That's addiction. But the darkest side of the third eye, it's not the visions. It's not the entities. It's not even the loneliness or the obsession. It's the risk of losing yourself entirely. Because once you start questioning reality, it's a slippery slope. First, you question the world around you. Then, you question your place in it. And eventually, you start questioning whether you are real. It's a spiral that has left more than a few seekers in mental health crises, trapped in a world of their own making. But it doesn't have to be this way. Awakening doesn't have to mean chaos. It doesn't have to mean fear, or isolation, or losing yourself to the unknown. The third eye is a tool, not a curse. And like any tool, it can be used wisely or recklessly. If you've made it this far, you're probably asking yourself, is it worth it? Should I open the third eye? Should I keep going if I've already started? The answer isn't simple, but it's honest. It depends on you. On your readiness. On your willingness to face the truths you uncover, even when they're uncomfortable. On your ability to stay grounded in a world that suddenly feels unsteady. Because here's the ultimate revelation. The power of the third eye isn't about escaping this reality. It's about understanding it more deeply. Seeing the patterns, the connections, the energy that flows through everything. It's about learning to navigate life with clarity, not running from it. But to do that, you need balance. You need boundaries. You need to protect yourself, not just from the unknown forces that might come through, but from your own mind's tendency to spiral. Meditation is only one piece of the puzzle. You need grounding practices. Daily rituals that connect you to the earth, to your body, to the here and now. You need to remind yourself that even as you explore other dimensions, you're still human. You still belong in this world. So here's the bottom line. Opening your third eye isn't the end goal. It's a step, a powerful, risky, transformative step on a much larger journey. And the most enlightened people, they're not the ones floating above reality. They're the ones who've learned to live fully within it, with all its light and shadow. You've been told the third eye is about awakening to a higher state of being. But maybe it's about something even more profound. Maybe it's about awakening to yourself. All of yourself. The good, the bad, the messy, and the magnificent. Because that's where true power lies, not in what you see, but in how you choose to live with what you see. The choice is yours. What will you do with it?